morning, Eduardo. This is August 10th, and the last month has been pretty disastrous for people who are living in Travis County, Kerr County, and many other states who've also faced disasters. And I believe our viewership is spread all across US, and but mostly focused in Central Texas. So, do you have any words to say for our viewership in times of distress, and just try to ask like how they're doing?
Okay. Well, it is a time of grieving for me and for many people in Central Texas, even other people across the world that we connect to. San Antonio is a world city. We had the World Fair, and so there's lineages, bloodlines, dynasties, families, loved ones, and cherished ones that we have lost. But um let's take a time to remember them.
During this, busy month of full of disasters, there have been, various updates in the water industry as well. And a lot is unfolding in Texas in terms of water because it's a scarce resource which everybody wants access to. And one of the main point where people kind of disagree is that water as a resource. People who live in, like, let's say San Antonio, they don't want other cities like Austin to take their water. And as a Austin resident, when I see like growth happening in Round Rock and other areas which also needs that water, I'm kind of, a little split on like, hey, how much do I, want other cities to grow? Like I'm pro growth for sure. And at the same time, they are depending on Lake Travis for some of their water needs. And while Lake Travis is at all-time high for the last like 2 to 3 years, it's been at the highest in the last few years. And I think people are still nervous here that that lake levels are going to drop very fast because of the nearby cities taking withdrawals, and that's surface water. Similarly, we have groundwater issues. So Edwards Aquifer is big one. Then there is one called Carrizo Wilcox, which is East Texas. I saw this story and I wanted to share with our listeners. Is there are large corporations. It's called Pine Bliss and Red Town Ranch, and I mean these are like general LLC names. So it doesn't really tell you anything about like the ownership or um, who's behind it kind of, but they're trying to install 40 high capacity wells across Anderson, Henderson, and Houston counties. Again, not the same as city of Houston, but because Houston's in Harris County. So they're requesting 15 to 16 billion gallons a year from the Carrizo Wilcox aquifer. Fun fact, I just saw this like research article on Nature magazine, and this article kind of goes about talking like, hey, aquifer storage recovery is a big deal. And we've had amazing results from doing aquifer storage and recovery in the United States, especially in Texas, because TWDB has been funding several ASR projects, and yeah, I have it pulled up on the screen for some of the viewers. Like, hey, we have done pretty great through ASR, where the groundwater was depleting, and then we are restoring it by these methods where somewhere in San Marcos they're pumping water back into the groundwater, and they're doing it in many other areas in Texas. But there's again, it's a cost that the taxpayers burden, right, to refill the aquifers, and at the same time, these corporations are coming in and they're withdrawing water that's some this little unsustainable, I would say. Like when I hear something like 20 billion or 16 billion gallons per year from an aquifer, it raises concerns for me. And I'm not even a resident of these counties or East Texas. and it's been a big deal there. I think people have come together. They have protested against it. They have went to courthouse, and they've asked questions to the people in power, like, hey, there have been a lot of conflict of interest here. Like people who were managing these groundwater conservation district, they are the same people who are benefiting from these licenses. So it kind of goes along, first, huge respect to people in East Texas who are able to, stay like really fine tuned on this and come together, because that I feel like is a very hard thing to do because of how much is going on, right? I mean, this month with flooding, and you still like pursuing this topic. So definitely I really appreciate what they're doing. And it's still, unresolved. There's still the votes are remaining, but what's your overall like general take on corporations taking up, these large licenses on groundwater withdrawal from our aquifers in Texas?
Oh, what a question when you put it that way. They sound so evil. What do you think about these corporations just installing, what are they? Like pumps? Are they holes that are being bored randomly? Or how are they identifying the best spots to drill the well? Because as it is pernicious and I guess broadly practiced, apparently, it is also not an unknown practice. This is something that we know how to do, and corporations can do it for their own interests. I don't want to lose sight of that particular ability to how do we find the water? How is it exploited? But like, how is it possible that we can just get the water out of the aquifer? Are they big? Like, is it like a big room? Do you
So
know about that? Is there ways to take pictures?
I think it would be very similar to like a typical oil and gas rig. So imagine like, how you would
And
go
thank you,
to
Sanjay.
West Texas or somewhere, and then you'll drill large wells. And actually, during the well process in for oil and gas exploitation or exploration, for every like gallon of gasoline that that they obtain from the well, they actually get like 6 to 7 gallons of water, which is called produce water. But that's a totally separate topic. And but the process is kind of I think similar, and where you probably dig wells, and a lot of actually on people in Texas, they rely on groundwater for their daily use, because the municipal pipelines don't go everywhere, especially in the rural areas. So when people see data centers emerge out of nowhere into their backyard, or they see these large well projects which are taking up water, they immediately the thought comes to them like, hey, it is going to dry my area. Like I so because these wells, they so it depends on like how deep you can dig, right? That's the number one factor. So if you're and in Texas, you can withdraw any amount of water from your land, really, like as long as you're drilling in your land. And but the groundwater kind of flows differently. It's not bound by your legal parcel. It's different. It's not even bound by the water.
It's unregulated, it sounds like.
It's regulated by the groundwater authorities, like groundwater conservation district. But in this case, they're saying there has been some conflict of interest with the people who manage the groundwater conservation district, and they've taken financial push. What is it called? Backpacks or something like that.
Well, I guess let me say not unregulated. Would you say it's underregulated?
Yeah, I would say under regulated so it's again. it depends on which watershed we're talking about. So, Edwards Aquifer Authority is very powerful, very super regulated, and it's major one. And then there are other ones like Carrizo, which may be understaffed, underfunded, and maybe underregulated. So it depends on,
Mm.
it's like not the same throughout Texas. It depends on which groundwater area we are talking about.
You're right. And I'll stop kind of like that sort of line of questioning. It was out of curiosity. And I've been thinking about the role of this conversation in conservation of our environment. And I always think about, we're talking about these news and we're talking about policies and kind of our goals, water conservation, ecological preservation. And in writing another presentation, I was thinking about, we're thinking about authorities, but in reality, that is a little simplistic to think about authority, right? Because we all have different levels of authority, different levels of regulation, written down as responsibilities. And in my presentation, my friend told me, it's not good to think about authority as like the label for the thing that needs to be done. Like authority is not the proper thing to talk about. It's the responsibilities that's the actual object of interest. And I think about, so what are the responsibilities that we're interested in when it comes, and I guess this is one question for me, and I can try to answer it if you want me to, but I'll throw it at you just to see what you think. What are the responsibilities of an aquifer management authority or a river authority? What are the responsibilities that define that type of structure? Because one of it is like measuring how much water we got and then telling people how much water we got, right? In the Lower Colorado River Authority, in my experience, they maintain the stability of the drainage basin and all their assets that are like the dams that are, uh, you know, effective and pivotal in the management of that water within that basin. And so that's kind of how I see, very, very top level, what a aquifer or river authority is, what as a defining it by its responsibilities. Do you think that is an apt description of what the Carrizo Wilco Springs Authority is doing? Because I'm talking about underregulation, unregulated. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe let's just talk about, are they performing similar responsibilities? And that would just be a start. Like, do they?
So, I mean, I'm not super like educated in this topic, so I did ask ChatGPT for what are the responsibilities of groundwater authorities, and the first question it asked me like, hey, are you talking about groundwater conservation district, groundwater management areas, or statewide agencies like TCEQ or
Um,
TWDB? So uh, basically, the responsibilities differ based on if you're a GCD, GMA, or a TCEQ or TWDB, which all have oversight over the groundwater in some ways. Maybe not TWDB that much, but yeah, this is something we will discuss at the end of the episode on what the responsibilities are of these three, because this is taking a little bit longer to give
well,
a
I'm happy I
complete
asked a
picture.
great question.
Yeah,
I don't
so
want to derail the point you were trying to make, which is that these corporations are active and they're effective in moving water, in finding water. And it's something that I envy. And I guess that is the feeling I have. It's a feeling of envy um, when I would like to manage. water for people, but instead I'm on the sidelines watching corporations do the work I wish I was doing. So that's my professional feeling, is that I wish I was doing that work, because having all that machinery is just so and finding water, finding oil is so such a big responsibility. Yeah, I say I have a feeling of envy.
Here, I'm going to recommend the listeners a documentary called Kern County or Kern Water Bank, because this really hits the point on what is the difference between a public servant who's put in charge of these responsibilities within these agencies, and then the corporations who kind of are the ones actually doing the work, or actually doing the transmission or whatever. And however bad it sounds in Texas, it's much worse in California, because this water bank called Kern Water Bank, they did backdoor deals, didn't involve allow any official to be out, and then pretty much like divided the entire state's water rights, or the underground water, and they just use it for like producing almonds and stuff. But it's the same story that is kind of repeating in Texas, where there are these backdoor deals that are happening without public officials, or getting too much say in these objects, where and then these groundwater districts, they're kind of, I don't know, like, I don't think they're handicapped, but it's just, it's painful to see you know that they're not, some of these meetings, they're not like going as people would expect they would, especially in the case where corporations are allowed to transmit or transfer water from one watershed to another, or from one city to another. I mean, that's the case we're seeing like all over Texas, with the sprawling growth in central Texas, or just the Texas Triangle, right? Like Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. I mean, these regions are growing so fast. People say like there are like 1,000 people moving into Texas every day, something crazy number. And to meet and they're like 70% of them are moving to these cities, and so there is huge demand in these cities for water. They're going out of their way to find water. It's right now, it kind of feels like wild wild west, where these like these young men would like go and explore things, explore resources. They would go to like California, or these adventures where they find gold, they would find gasoline, they would find minerals, and now it's the same thing happening, like kind of for water, where like these, I believe, young men, they're going out into places in Texas, finding water, and then making deals, for this critical resource, and then selling it to large cities, is one like through a channel which it's just water trade. Um, but it's really fascinating if somebody wants to follow the whole thing, like how it's happening. But I would like to take a slight turn and talk about a different agency called Lavaca. It's called LNRA, so which stands for Lavaca Navidad River Authority, and they have a long-term water rights contract, which these agencies, when they're formed, uh, they have some water rights, and they are allowed to give water rights to other companies and stuff. But they're building a dam in Texas, in on Lavaca River, I believe, and and yeah, it's going to be a large dam. Uh, it says like 2 billion gallons a year, probably, which will be diverted, or wait, it says 30 billion gallons a year, which will be diverted from the Lavaca River into this dam. And people are upset. Like, dam design is one of the things. It's very similar to nuclear. Like, if people don't realize like how critical it is, like dam builds and gives you energy, nuclear gives you energy, We haven't built that many nuclear plants in a while. We haven't built that many dams in a while. Nuclear is regulated, dam is regulated. So, and they both have their own like environmental concerns, like nuclear radiation dam destroys the ecology of the river. The fishes will die, pretty much every fish will die, and the ecology just kind of changes. It doesn't support, fish habitat anymore. Um, Fishes, some of the fish, so we think like, fishes go from like upstream to downstream. That's like common thinking, like, okay, fishes will like
No, I think people understand that dams are universally difficult to design.
yeah, but like, there are some fishes who have to travel from the ocean to, upstream
We
for like,
have developed fish ladders. They're
yeah,
not
but
the best, but
yeah, but
people permit them.
I was getting to that. So like, yeah, of course, there is design that has supported, fishes to go upstream to like, be in the mating season and then go back downstream whenever they're done, giving, birth to new fishes. And it's a pretty interesting topic, which I feel like in California they've taken lead and, designed a lot of fish ladders. But it's just one thing that I don't know if LNRA is going to be putting a fish ladder for the fishes, because that becomes a massive undertaking for any agency. So sometimes agencies have to cut corners, especially
Can we talk
like
about something interesting like that?
okay.
Then the design of environmentally sensitive um structures. Because when you, let's say, when you have a project and you want to fund it, which doesn't seem that, not that justifiable at the moment, um, you have to remediate or rehabilitate or prove a level of cost benefit ratio, which is one. It's not easy, but one of the strategies to get there is to remediate or to provide ecological services. That to me was a big goal for our discipline, is to establish that practice of, like, even though you might cause some damages or some hazards or whatever, you can improve elsewhere. It's called mitigation. Is that what we can talk about, mitigation design?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you hit it right with like the benefit cost ratio. And also, it kind of comes down to like the willingness of the city, right? Like, or the whoever the regulatory agency is, like, how much are they willing to go, like the extra mile, to, for example, the capex in Cap
But whoever has the
1.5.
capital to produce
Yeah.
what's actually necessary for a full design seems like a minimal check of feasibility, if that makes sense. I don't want to be too technical, but to get a feasible design, you make a check for qualifications.
Yeah, that's true. Uh, so what's their exact question?
The exact question is, when you make a dam and you have a ladder and you're dealing with velocities of water down, and the water's hot and the weather's hot, and you're killing the fish downstream, and you don't design the dam volume where you have natural variability and complexity in, like, vegetation populations, and you know even fish management needs to be a part of the life cycle cost and design intent, like access routes to ecologically sensitive portions of the dam wherever they may arise, like in wetland confluences, um like these very technical issues or design areas require a map and sites,
Yeah.
locations to talk about, labels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And the question is, can we do that?
Yeah, so
Like,
in
as
this,
people, like, are we
yeah.
prepared for that type of design?
Yeah, so you hit it on the like feasibility part, right? Like when you do the feasibility study, you also kind of do the environmental impact analysis and stuff. But in this specific case, the river authority said that this dam doesn't need a federal uh, impact analysis report.
Like, it doesn't need a nationwide permit? Is that
Yeah, kind of like I mean it might still need a permit, but sometimes like in permitting process, uh, you just get all the local permits and then you may not have to get one of the federal permit. Like because some of the you can say that okay, it's not going to impact X, Y, and Z, and because it's not going to impact a wetland or we don't need a federal permit. So it's just pretty tricky, and I don't know the exact specifics, but this the kind of ends up being where this dam may not require a federal environmental impact study, and that because that process could take a year or more, right? Like maybe 3 years. Some of these reports take a while, and there's a back and forth discussion about it, and like dams in Texas, there are like thousands and thousands of dams, and not every dam has a fish ladder for sure, and not every future dam that will be built will have a fish ladder. And we don't know if there are fishes who need that ladder because the environmental impact study wasn't done like in a full sense of the word, and that's what people are upset because they're like, hey, let's if you I mean I don't think anybody is anti-growth in Texas in general, but people like growth. People like seeing Texas grow, the economy grow, energy demand or energy grow, and everybody get abundance. But at the same time, people just want to see that okay, we don't want our water to go to the next county, or we don't want the river where I go fishing, where I go kayaking, where I go tubing, to not have those fishes anymore, right? To not have the same biodiversity, and like because dams are great to I guess boat, like for example the the Ladybird Lake, it's pretty great to have kayak there, but at the same time, it's fun to do tubing in San Marcos because there's no dam. So, like, I mean, there's a dam upstream, I think, but near city of San Marcos. But yeah,
Well, I want to say that, and not to interject, a lot of this kind of strain between what the people want and what people need, that's really it. Um, a leadership,
yeah,
right? Like, it's kind of like we need these things. We have these people that want to build a dam. They can build a dam because it's feasible to build a dam. People need the water, but they need to negotiate with the impacts. They need to negotiate with possible potential consequences.
yeah,
And that requires knowledge, experience. Um, I will say, is it confidence, or it would say trust? It requires trust in your ability to mean what you say. I think that's a political leadership,
yeah,
a part of this desire for water, that we want to fulfill. What do you think that I don't see this as a problem as a water resources engineer? I don't see this as a problem for water resources engineer. I see it as a problem of the leaders do not know how to align their people with what's needed with the resources, because one of the questions here is, do we have water? And the answer to me seems like that's not even the question. We have water. It's just, how do we install these things that we need without everybody getting confused, upset, victimized by it? It's a difficult project. It requires a lot of dialogue. That requires a lot of organized meeting and understanding and listening, because this doesn't really seem like a technical problem to me, or a financial problem, or a feasibility problem. To me, it sounds like the people are not organized.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like a secondary take, or that there's something more urgent happening, like something much more critical than dam building?
I think I kind of agree with your statement where you said like it is a problem of, leadership where the current leadership has different understanding of what the future looks like. And these tangential or like these moments happen in history where you see a switch from a current way of thinking to the next wave where leaders will emerge out of these city hall meetings where these battles are being fought in the city hall, in town halls, on social media, and there will be new leaders who will emerge out of this movement, and they will have a different take on how to do things. So I think it will lead to answers for sure, and definitely requires all of us to be more involved in whichever watershed we are living in and understand like what how the county system operates, how these river authorities operate, how because who's doing it, who's giving away the water rights, who's doing and because these battles need to be fought in actual in person or in virtual meetings in town halls and city halls. It is entirely political. There's very less engineering. I mean, it's more of program management question. It's more of like question about ethics. It's about you know it's very different question, and at the same time we are facing a similar question with the flooding that happened last month, um, July 5th, and there was a lot of damage that happened with the flooding both in Kerr County and Travis County. Uh, and there is an article which states there were 200 homes that were damaged by July flooding in Travis County, and it was near Sandy Creek in Leander. So Leander faced bulk of the flooding, and there are other parts of Travis County where the bridges collapsed. And there are stories that definitely need shout out, like in the case of TxDOT, one they were able to like like do the design of a whole bridge and get it through all the approvals within 1 week because people needed that bridge just to commute. So that's a great story that came out of it, but at the same time there are stories which are at least for me a little depressing. I think people might have different take where counties are using the disaster declaration powers or disaster management or powers which they have on raising taxes. So during any disaster, counties are, or the judges and the people who work there, they are allowed to vote on these things. So um, that will be your uh, precinct chair or Travis County Commissioner's office. Then they can authorize like up to 22% tax hike because of a disaster. And that it still needs a voter approval, I think, but at the same time, usually the increase cannot be like more than 5 to 10% from the commissioner office, and they're both in Kerr County and Travis County. They're using this moment to raise taxes, and I think that it. I personally think it is not a good look because people are suffering, people are having to rebuild their homes. I just recently saw that foreign agencies or like other countries, sovereign wealth funds, they've invested like $50 million into Maui or LA places where there was fires. And so, like fire and flood, these are the two very frequent disasters that we've seen over the last 1 year. And you see all the land grab, all the deals that were made uh, by, these sovereign wealth funds, these real estate investment trusts, where they just swoop in and buy everybody out on like 50% of the value of their home. And one of my neighbors had to kind of go through a foreclosure, so it kind of, hits very close to home where, if you keep raising taxes on people like this, where they cannot afford to live in a home which they've been living in for a while. They cannot afford to run a business in where, and a corporation comes in and takes over because the land is scarce, especially the land around the rivers is scarce. Everybody wants to have a home on the river. Everybody wants to have business on the river because it makes money. It feels great, but at the same time, whenever a fire or a flood happens, um, I feel like people who are in power, they're using that moment to not connect with the community. Instead, they're using it to raise taxes. And I mean, in Kerr County, who did we saw first to come and respond? We saw the people, right? We saw people who live around it, people from Austin, people from other cities. They drove in trucks in droves into the site, and there are hundreds and thousands of volunteer hours being devoted to clearing the debris and stuff. We saw HEB go there. We saw HEB food trucks there, and HEB helping. We saw donations from HEB and other companies. We saw donations from people like from $20, and these non-profits start up and with millions of dollars in cash to help the people. But and then we are seeing tax increase, like that doesn't make any sense to me. I think this could have been a moment where the people in power could have been like, "Hey, we really feel with you guys, and we're going to give you actually a tax decrease. Like we're gonna give you a discount this year because you may not have enough money to spare because you're rebuilding, you're putting money into repairs. You may have missed like 5 days of work this year because you couldn't commute to your work. I feel like a lot of people have in-person jobs, uh, maybe in restaurant or other industries, and you couldn't commute to work. You lost two paychecks, so we'll give you a discount. We, because but instead they're saying like, hey, we're going to increase the tax by 22%. Make it make sense. I mean, that's a great, like, I feel like disasters are a great time for everybody to come together and which we saw happen. But everybody, I mean, also the leaders, all leaders should go back to the community and be like, hey, you guys voted us in. Um, Now is my time to give back. I'm going to do all these like budget changes. I'm going to work extra, and then I'll make sure that I find money in the budget to make sure that we run efficiently, and I'll remove the deficiencies programs that we may not need right now. But it's kind of not fun watching tax increases.
Yeah, there's definitely a part about living where you observe these contradictions. So, what is a contradiction that you want to ask about? Because, capitalism is full of contradictions. What contradiction should we start with? I love this question, but like which one what can we talk about that it's just really on you?
I think I mean, opportunity to reduce taxes because disaster declaration, you should be like, hey, there was a disaster, we'll reduce taxes because all this money was raised uh, by, I mean, there were millions and millions of dollars of donations that went to non-profits and stuff. Non-profits would step up, be like, hey, we're going to pay all the taxes for everybody for this year. So many people could really help the homeowners out. But instead, it's an opportunity to raise taxes so that people can't afford to live in their home.
So the contradiction here is, why is the money going to the corporations instead of providing tax reductions to people? Or like, why are we giving money to nonprofits and then increasing taxes on everybody? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, so much money
Okay,
going
so we're
around.
like giving these corporations or nonprofits money and then taxing everyone equally. Is that what you're claiming is happening or what
Yes.
you
I'm
observe?
Yeah, that's what I'm observing. Like, they're increasing
Okay, we
taxes.
can talk about that because that's, of course, what's happening. Um, it's what's always been happening since Reagan.
Yeah.
So this is the financial policy of this land, is that we provide tax incentives for well-meaning organizations. That happens because that is the foundation of the natural law, and it's the law that has to happen. So it's not a contradiction. It's a contradiction in morality, perhaps. It's a contradiction of ethics, but it's not a contradiction of the law of the land, which is a land of natural law in America. That's what the justice system is based on. That's what the legal system is. The justice system is the expression of morality to the layperson, so there's no contradiction legally because this is the natural way that America functions, is that we invest our tax dollars, which are the expression of our political will, um, into organizations that follow the law. And so these nonprofits, they follow the law, so they get the money. And the people, they could get the money too if there was enough money to go around, you know? So it is what I would like to say is just a prioritization problem. It's a legal prioritization problem. And even though there are examples of direct financial assistance to victims of declared disasters, it just didn't, it just wasn't legal. It was extra legal. Somebody would say it was illegal to give people money straight up in check form, $800, $1,500. That happened. That could happen again, but it might not have been legal because it was given directly to people. The law of the land, as I understand it, is that that money legally should have gone to nonprofits. And I believe, and this is just my opinion, the fact that the law was broken and the people were giving the money straight up without anything to give them a sense of this is what you should do with it so that you don't perish in the future accident. This is how you invest it. The fact that people were just giving the money blindly without any conversation about what to do with that law was broke. That ethical moral law was broken in the American system of justice of natural law. That money, whether I like it or not, my opinion has no bearing on what's legal or not. I'm just one person. So there is no contradiction to me if I think about it holistically about the system. That's the law, is that money shouldn't go to people straight up. That is that is working against what the system was designed to do. Does that make sense?
It does, but how was Elon Musk allowed to give like $1 million check to people in Pennsylvania during the election directly through his PAC? I don't know if you
I
followed that,
think
but
it could have been illegal. I don't know. That is not my expertise, I'll say. Like what Elon Musk does, like you say, in front of doors, behind doors. Although I do understand as a person that works in complex organizations, there's information you know and information you don't know. And there is an inside and outside information strategy, and it's called information, you know, what is it called? Public relations.
yeah,
And the public relations don't have to be positive, they just have to be effective. If we're thinking in a manner like Elon Musk.
yeah, and also I think nonprofits, they should, I mean, for sure, if they are receiving money, they should make efforts to distribute it as soon as possible. And I think right now what's happening is they're just putting it into like investment funds and saying like, hey, we'll grow this investment fund for many years. Like just like Harvard or other major institutions like UT and Texas A&M have these like 20, 30, $40 billion investment funds which they're using for future if something bad happens versus just making tuition free for everyone right now. So that's the, like you said, I guess may it be the natural order or the law, but that's what's happening
Was
there.
representative democracy when we have a Senate and a House, and it's designed to filter out diverging opinions
Yeah,
in the sake of cohesion or uniformity in a winner take all state like Texas. This is what happens when diversity of issues and diversity of responsibilities are not really accepted by the dominant decision making process. Uh, and I don't know why I went through all that, but I don't think it's a problem for water resources
it's not.
engineers.
Yeah. And but there is a problem that water resource engineers will have to figure out soon, which is so Texas Senate just had a emergency session and they made some recommendations based on the Kerrville flooding. What went wrong? They did a whole forensic on it, how we can fix it. They want all the solutions to be combined. They want all agency heads, which is the Office of Meteorological Office at Texas A&M, the commissioners of various state agencies who are TDEM and etc. They want all of them to come together on conclusion on what's the right solution, and they have offered certain recommendations. So I'm going to go through them. So first is siren system. They want a siren system. They want automatic alerts. Uh, they want increased river gauges. They want expanded broadband and cell coverage. They want statewide communication interoperability. And then they want NOAA weather radio modernization. And it's funny that that's from Senator Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is saying he wants NOAA to modernize their radio when I think
Okay.
he might have he might have voted to like cut funding for NOAA. So I'm not gonna say anything to that. I don't know his exact vote. Um, but these are the recommendations that were made. Water resource engineers will have to find a way to integrate all of them so that there are no or there is mitigation of these disasters and we don't see as much tragic loss of life because people weren't able to uh, get communicated about the flooding in the middle of the night. So uh, yeah, I mean, we definitely need more river gauges. I think there was a news where the this is another one. You probably didn't hear about it, but they had funding for installing river gauges on the stream on the river, which the Camp Mystic was located, but instead of putting up four or three rain gauges, three river gauges, they decided to give the money back to residents as a tax discount. Like they were like, hey, we have this budget surplus, we're going to distribute the money back to the residents. So
Mhm.
this kind of was something I was, kind of forcing in this episode. It's like, hey, let's give the money back. But in this case, they decided to do it, and uh, they basically said, hey, in retrospect, we should have done it differently. But at that time, that felt like more reasonable thing to do. But um, it's
Well,
again,
that's why I brought up earlier in the episode. We should stop thinking about authorities and people. You know, it might seem anti-human, but in speaking about politics, we should be speaking about the responsibilities that we share and that I would wish to share. Like that's effective politicking. It's not when you're talking about your individual kind of goals, but your shared responsibilities. And that's a way to filter political conversation so you don't get stuck in this cycle of resentment and cycle of me and you, but you get stuck in a conversation of our shared responsibility. And it's difficult to get into talking about you and them, you versus them, or me and them and not them. And you're talking about, we're just talking about the role. We're just talking about cleaning water. We're not talking about him cleaning water or me cleaning water. It's just about the role, the responsibility of cleaning water. Is that feasible? The responsibility of managing a, a budget that has a goal written on it, like a statement of purpose. Rainy day fund. It rained. Now what? And so I think when we think about who's supposed to do this, who's supposed to do that, let's just talk about what did we agree on legally that this money must go towards. And it typically is a nonprofit. Um, and it's typically transparent as well. uh, of course, maybe not that important in the larger scale of things, but when someone's looking, like, don't break the law. It's not that hard to know what the law is. In a lawless land, it's vital.
yeah.
This is Texas. Come on.
Yeah, I always think about like, hey, maybe I should go back to like law school for like a few years and learn what the law says, and but then I'm like, hey, it's like 4 years or something, and by
Well, I
that time,
mean, stop, because we have so many lawyers that are unemployed, and now they have
yeah,
Chat GPT. They could get hella cases
yeah.
through the courtrooms because ChatGPT helps the brain. I don't know. I'm scared of ChatGPT, but those lawyers will tell you it makes things easier.
So I have a thought experiment for you
Yeah.
because you brought up ChatGPT. So
Yeah.
they're saying that hey, if ChatGPT is able to clear the bar exam, should you allow ChatGPT to give legal recommendations? But that's not the question. My question is if ChatGPT is able to clear the PE exam with, let's say, 100% result, like, a typical, like, when I gave my PE, I think I got like 72% on the exam, and I was able to pass the exam with 72% marks.
I got less than you and I passed. Maybe I got
Yeah.
71.
Yeah, there's like something. I think you have to get at least 69. Depends on the year, but it's somewhere around that. And if you
Yeah.
pass, you're a professional engineer. You're allowed to give recommendations or sign and seal documents like environmental reports, what flood hazard reports, floodplain maps. So my question is like if ChatGPT, let's say in 1 year, it gets 100% on the PE exam in all 50 states, should ChatGPT be allowed to be a PE?
Well, the professional engineering board of each state maintains an ethical code. that is the number one priority of each professional engineer is to maintain that ethical code. And so, no, I don't think passing the test is the difference. I think being able to maintain ethical behavior is the bare minimum.
And how do we do that? Like, there's a way to assess it, right? Like, we have to, every year, all of us have to take 1 hour of ethics class. And we take that 1 hour class, we tell the board that, hey, we took it, and, you know, we agree and we get our license renewed. And
Okay, so there is a section of the professional like book or law code that says a professional engineer cannot change another engineer's design without the proper authorization of the previous engineer. So if ChatGPT is working in retrofit to a design and it is not a complete rebuild, I don't, and then it would have to meet that barrier. It's like, did you speak with the previous engineer? Or can you show me your calculations? There are, in my discipline, I will perform this check on ChatGPT, which is, did you analyze this system? And if I review their calculations, I believe ChatGPT will miss something
you,
in the
that's
real
the,
world that cannot be
yeah.
paramet parameterized, whatever the word is, or that cannot be made discrete, or that cannot be extrapolated other than through an interdisciplinary observation. So I will say a computer could be certified, or no, a computer could pass intelligence tests, but it cannot pass performance in very sensible things, like very easy things, I'll even say. Like, um, what is the future land use?
And we
Like,
can,
what is the time of concentration? Like, stuff like that, I don't think it could answer in a meaningful way to me.
yeah, and I
So, in
think,
my discipline, no.
yeah. Yeah, that is true right now. And I think that's something where the board of professional engineers need to come up with a test similar to Turing test. So Turing test was designed so that, hey, if a person sitting behind a wall cannot distinguish between a human and an AI, then the AI is achieved, you know, Turing test, or it's achieved like
Yeah, I think a Turing
something like that.
test is important. Yeah, and also it will not have leadership ability.
And
And so it will not be able to use its design for anything.
yeah.
So I don't think it's a good engineer thing.
And we can raise the bar for, like, let's say you and I, to get a PE license, we just give that exam, 4 years of um, working under a PE, and then that's it. We get license. We can probably
That's
do
true,
something like
yeah.
we can do something
I would
like
say
okay,
10 though.
yeah, for some, yeah,
Yeah.
people we know.
Yeah, for some, yeah, 10. Like, oh my goodness.
Why are you looking at him? But yeah, there could be a test where, like, let's say 10 engineers sit behind a wall, and they get a design from a actual human, they get a design from ChatGPT. They have to decide which one's real, or they have to decide which
I
one
like that.
meets all the criteria, all the everything that was listed. And at some point, if like AI like wins like 100 times, or like 1,000 times, like in that test, like make it like a TV show or something where we're just watching, you know on Netflix, like how ChatGPT is coming up with this design, and then a PE is coming with this other design, and people behind the wall are like, oh, I like this one better. And if AI is like dunking like 1,000 times on the engineer, I feel like at that some point we should be like, maybe give him a PE license, man. I don't know. That's funny, but I think it needs more serious thought than that.
Well, it's kind of a philosophical question to me because civil engineering as a title, and the episode's super long. We can just talk about this, me and you, some other time. But I have a critical perspective to like what the reality that we live in, and so I I'm a bit of an anarchist at heart, where it's like this thing that we have that's really complicated, is that really like the low energy state of it? And I know corporations drilling water in random ass places in Texas, they're not random, but um it's a really it's a lot of work. It's an incredible amount of work to pump water to the 12th floor of a building, to pump water from 1,500 feet underground. It's an incredible amount of effort, um, that is causing so much disillusion and so much just havoc in our weather. And well, that I have this critical mind. You have that critical mind too. You're like, is that necessary? Is that the best we can do? Is that the most flow? Is that the way to have the best flow, the best tai chi, the best kung fu? Is that really the best? Um, and it's it's good to maintain that critical perspective, because engineering has gotten so difficult. About how do you become an engineer? Well, you get real good at math, and then you go to college, and then you get certification, and then you got to write your SER. Then you got to, go to school, get your training, pay for that, fly over here, and then just be really, really good at business to make money in this discipline. We're still broke at the end of the day. So, um, and so I'm critical of this whole system of obstacle courses we're building for each other, when a simple solution like, why don't you just teach me for 4 years and then I'm done? Or like, then you trust me. Or if you don't trust me doing this work, well, then I'll just follow you along 10 more years. And if you're sick of me, well, then, maybe there's some other path.
Yeah.
And so I think that we all want, even people that are not engineers from other countries, like CAD staff from other, you know, there's so many minorities that don't get to be engineers, that have all the right intuitions, all the right questions, all the right, um, I would say discipline. They have the right discipline to be engineers, and they just, for whatever obstacle courses we've been building to, outdo each other, it really does a lot of other people a humongous disservice.
Yeah.
um and that, I find, is not the lowest energy, but for some people like me and you, we're like, we like it, I guess. And it's intense. It's intense. I'll say
Yes.
that.
Yeah, so I feel like, for engineers, in Texas, the last option right now is like, if we are broke, no one's giving us work. HEB is always hiring. So I hear my coworkers say that a lot. They're like, HEB is always hiring. We can just be there. So that's HEB is the last resort for everything, for disasters, for engineers, jobs, for food and everything. Yeah, let's go HEB. But I did
Yeah, they're
attend.
doing something right.
Yeah,
It's my church. HEB is my church.
yeah. They, they even do pretty well in terms of their GIS planning. So that's another topic. But I went to
Yeah, they do.
TCQ drinking water conference this year. It was my second time. We had like 1,000 utilities from all over Texas attend and learn. It's basically like a learning forum where they learn about what's new and latest in terms of PFAS, lead and copper, drinking water rules. what's coming from EPA and what TCEQ will be, looking for in the future, and all the database upgrades that TCEQ had in the last, few years. So it was pretty informative. I really enjoyed it, and if somebody wants to be in drinking water, they should probably consider attending it next year or watch the videos virtually. They're available, I think, on their website for free. But
Oh,
um,
interesting.
yeah. So, with that, we had talk question in the middle of this podcast where we wanted to go over what's the responsibility of uh, groundwater. And ChatGPT said there are four agencies, or TCEQ, TWDB, and GMA and GCD. So GCDs now, they do permitting, registering, and regulation of wells. That's GCD. They adopt rules. They collect and track pumping data. They enforce rules. So it's all groundwater conservation district. Then GMAs are the ones. They're a forum for joint GCD planning. So it's a planning forum where they propose desired future conditions every 5 years, and they appoint GCD representatives for regional water planning groups. Then comes TWDB, who approves and di- assists with GCD management plans, monitors groundwater levels, and then they designate and oversee GMA joint planning process, maintain state groundwater data, develop state water plan. Then TCEQ processes petitions to create and alter GCDs. So TCEQ regulates the GCDs, oversees GCD performance, administer groundwater protection plan, and requires groundwater availability certifications for subdivisions. So they all work in tandem, all four of them, and they kind of put obstacle courses for each other. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think it kind of GCD, which regulates a lot, but because the other agencies decide like who's gonna be on the GCD, so and what they can do, so it kind of it's like everyone's pulling each other up and down, and
That's the power of like the Google search now. It's like you can do it in like 10 seconds and it's gonna be pretty reliable. You don't have to like it kind of it AI competes with Google search. That is like such a flattening of that monopoly that Google had on like information gathering. I feel it was like Google, Wikipedia for a long time, or like Yahoo, and then ChatGPT comes out, and we're like, wait a minute, now Google is not the only player on most like internet browsers. So like you just describing all that, making sense of all that, it's just incredible. It took me years to know like any of this mess. And with Chat GPT, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. And it's like a minute. It's just mind expanding,
that's
insane.
crazy. So do you have any? I mean, it's Sunday. Do you have any plans for the rest of the day, or
I do have some, and then you share with me yours. Um, Today, August 10 is the last pool open day. So I'm gonna go to the pool and swim and
nice?
what is it? Then later on, I'm gonna have a meeting with my political friends so we can talk about, yeah, how do we protect what we have and where are we going? It's been a very difficult year for since it started. It has been a very difficult year, and last month was a is still an ongoing grieving loss, unprecedented, totally unprecedented. There's so much feeling undispersed over the land. And it's very important to kind of come back to our land with life and with the death. They go together, hand in hand. Some people deal with this loss earlier in their life. Some people meet the the duality of life earlier. Some people meet God earlier. Um, and it's I don't know what's fair in the big scheme of things, but we have a responsibility to do at the end of the day, and we have to bury our dead. Um, and we have to give them dignity in the afterlife, um, which is not the end nor the beginning. It's just a continuation that we must protect. We must protect the continuity of life. We must protect the continuity of death. And it isn't easy at all. It's very complicated. So that's what I've been trying to do. Just take care of myself. It's hard, but that's what I wish for everyone to do today, if they're listening, is that slow down. Um, slow down and, and grieve and mourn. Maybe not for yourself, but for others,
Yeah.
because it's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the ground. Like the pieces of us, they're all here still. Um, so that's what I'm gonna go swim and try to. Sorry, I don't know what came over me, but that's what I do. I'm gonna go meditate on life and death. What are you up to today?
Yeah, so I'm gonna edit this one and upload it, and after that, I'm gonna have some breakfast. I haven't done that yet, and I also plan on going swimming actually, but I'll go to Barton Springs, I think, um, and maybe I'll go to a coffee shop in Austin and meditate on work, like just browse the internet and see what's going on and. Um, yeah, I haven't decided yet, but it will probably involve some swimming.
Sorry about that. I don't know. It's really fresh, you know. I I had a project and then she told me that her neighbor got it worse and the house was empty. And it's really tough to do this work. Um, but I think thank you for that question because that's I think I haven't been able to put that into words, kind of how I feel. Yeah, sorry, but
And tell us about your chickens. And I also have been learning swimming also this past week at Deep Eddy Pool. So I'm taking swimming lessons. Because I mean, I know swimming, but I'm trying to like be good enough to like survive on my own in ocean and stuff. So I'm learning taking some lessons, and it's gonna be good. But you've been having chickens in your backyard.
oh
How
yeah.
has it been fun for you?
Well, dude, you say you like birds.
Yeah.
So my chicken likes corn, like the dry corn,
Hmm.
but I don't know if other birds like that. So I went to HEB. They have a $5 bag of just corn, and then they have this $5 bag of like some other bird tea with it. So I got both of those. And there's squirrels now and like these doves and pigeons, whatever, and the chicken. And then I'm just watching all the birds kind of like hang out. And it's kind of like it's more diverse if you look at it and all that.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the chicken because it's like they used to be giving this chicken like these worm casings, like these worm meals.
Yeah.
And I guess that's cool too, but this chicken really likes corn.
It's a true Texan Midwestern chicken. So, yeah, of course he likes corn.
It would
Um,
be cool if I got two though. I only have one.
yeah, how big is it? You know, like how old? Like a few
Mm,
months or
I'm gonna go bring it. Is that? Do you have a minute so I can go show you? No, I'll show you
Yeah.
next episode.
Okay.
Or you want to see it right now?
Yeah. Bring it up. Yeah.
Dude, I'll be right back.
Okay. So Eduardo is going to bring his chicken, and fun fact about chickens is in Texas is that there are HOA rules if you live in a city, and for me, one of the reasons why I don't have a chicken is because it has to be like 50 feet from your neighbor. Like that's how much easement or space you need, something like that. And I don't have that much from my neighbors. So, but that's another thing that I hope my HOA resolves is that they allow everyone to have chickens. That would be something that would make me happy because I give water to birds and I give them seeds. I don't have squirrels in my backyard because it's a new development, and for some reason they're not here, and that makes me sad because the last place.
Chicken is too fast. I couldn't.
Okay,
I need to get
never
faster.
mind. Next episode,
Yeah,
I'll have chicken.
definitely next episode.
And where did you get it? Like, do you go to a farmer and you buy it from them, or?
No, no. I moved out of my last place to come live over here with my aunt, and she has a chicken. And then my cousins who live here, they were feeding the chicken these worm casings. And I was like, that looks nasty. So so I just went and I had bird feed from another, like from my last place, and the chicken was just eating the little corns. I was like, I see you. So I went to go get the bag of corn by itself.
Nice.
And it did this when I threw the corn on the ground, you're just gonna have to feel that. You're just gonna have to go through that yourself.
Okay.
That's the preview of what your life is gonna be like when you get one.
Okay. Well, that was fun, Eduardo. I'll see you later, and that's all for the listeners.
Yeah, I'll see you later. Episode 10. I'm gonna bother you so you can show me how to do that. Okay? Bye.